Welcome to my podcast, Today's Dream, Tomorrow's Reality. My name is Vickie Poole. I'm a master transformational coach and hypnotist specializing in habit change. This podcast is sponsored by the Enlightened Peach, and it's all about embracing our mosaic life. Well, some of you may ask, what is a mosaic life anyway? Well, it is recognizing that all the pieces of our life, the good, the bad, the indifferent, have all come together to make us who we are. Change any one thing, and we are different. With that in mind, I invite you to embrace your perceived imperfections and celebrate who you are. This podcast is unedited and raw, just like life. And I am your host. And I have a special guest that I will introduce in just a moment. But before I do, I would love to ask you to do me a solid, and that is to leave a comment, like, subscribe, and share. So now let's get started. So this lovely lady right here is Althea Holmes, and we actually met in another group that we were in, and I heard some of the things that she was talking about, and it was like, oh my gosh, I need to have a conversation with her. And it was just beautiful having you there because it was when we were doing the stand up and stand out party, right?
Yes,
Yes.
correct. Mhm.
And so I was so excited to meet several people, and you just really struck me because I know you had said, like, I had to refresh my memory just a moment ago, but I know you said that you had the crafts that you're working with. And it sounds like you have an amazing story that I'd love to dive into. But before I do, if you don't mind, just kind of introduce yourself a little bit to our watchers or our listeners.
Okay. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much, Vicki, for having me here. I am Althea. Have I was born with this rare disease called arthrogryposis, which affects my limbs, so I am wheelchair bound, but I have not allowed this to keep me from living a full life as best as I can. I am an independent liver. I take care of myself. I work full time as an independent adjuster, and I also do crafts on the side. My specialty right now is doing memorial purses. So for those that have gone on, I create these memorial purses for them if they want as a keepsake. And I also do regular gift purses and bags. And also I do speaking engagements. I'm just sharing my story with the world. So I have no kids. I was married before my husband passed away in 2020. So I'm just now kind of trying to come back into who Althea is now. I always say I want to go back to who I was, but I know that'll never happen after event. So I'm trying to figure out the new Althea. So that's
Yeah,
what.
that sounds perfect. That's perfect. Because which each thing that happens to us, we're born into a whole new us, right?
Correct.
And it sounds like you've had a lot. The thing is, like, I have so much empathy for you in the wheelchair. My niece, I have an adult niece, and she has muscular dystrophy. So she's been in a wheelchair for quite a long time. And the thing that amazes me is that so many places say that they're handicapped accessible, but they are not. They
Are not.
have I mean, we've been places where, there might be a ramp, but the ramp is where it's not even wide enough, or it's right next to something, so you can't get your wheelchair on it anyway. And then if you can get inside, half of the time they've got the aisles smushed down so much with things in there that she can't get through there, so she ends up being stuck at the door. And there are so many times I've wanted to just say, come on, wake up, people, because people in wheelchairs should be able to move right along with us. She has an electric wheelchair. I'm assuming you do as well, right?
Yes, ma'am. I do.
Yeah, and that sucker can go, man. I tried to move hers one time and it was like, woo, I said, okay, I'll leave the driving of the wheelchair to somebody else because it definitely does, it was going to take off with me. But so how long have you been in the wheelchair, or were you in the wheelchair at a very, very young age?
At a very young age. So I was born with this disease, so I
Hmm.
was never able to walk. I've
Okay,
always
okay.
been held by my parents or siblings, taking to where I need to go in a stroller, from the stroller to the wheelchair. So I've
Okay.
never to walk. So it's not like a lot of people that has a disability later on in life. This is all I know.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I'm used to being me, and I don't think I
Yeah.
would change anything about me.
Yeah, yeah, I will. I would say not. I love your smile. I love your the way you talk about things. It is just so refreshing to listen to you. So you started off in a wheelchair basically. And so did you go to college? Did you go? I know you went to high school and everything, but did you graduate from college as well?
Yes, I did graduate from college. So after high school, well, just a little bit of back history. So
Okay.
prior to me going to college, right after I had, right after I got out of high school, I had this surgery on my back where they had to place rods in my back because my spine was curving. So they told me that if I didn't have the surgery, I would be bedridden within like next 5 years or so. So I
Oh,
ended up
wow.
having the surgery.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but before having the surgery, I was always scooting around on the floor. I was never really in my wheelchair unless we went out in public. So I was able to, clip my toenails, do whatever I wanted to do. And after the surgery, the doctor did not take into consideration as to how long to place the rods in my back. So I can no longer bend 45 degrees forward.
Oh my
So
gosh.
yes, that put a damper pretty much on everything.
Yeah.
And I was not taking care of myself as far as like dressing myself or anything like that. The only thing I did for myself while with my family was feed myself.
Mm-hmm.
Everything else they did for me. It
Mm-hmm.
wasn't until I went off to college. Well, I went to college with my sister at Columbus State, and she was taking care of me then, like getting me dressed, this, that, and the other. Had a full ride to college, but Althea wanted to play around and lost it. I was trying to fit in with the crowd, so I ended up losing that scholarship, and she
What
ended
was the
up graduating.
scholarship for? Just an
So,
academic scholarship?
so it was, I wouldn't necessarily say it was a scholarship. So the Social Security was willing to take care of all of
Okay.
my education if I maintained a C average. That
Okay.
was it. So, and I did not. But my sister, she ended up graduating from the nursing program, and we moved back here to Stone Mountain. That's where it was. And she started working. And my best friend at the time, she said, that if we went to school together, that she would be there to take care of me as well. So I enrolled at Kennesaw State. And the day that, well, it was about a week or so before it was time for me to go, she informed me that she was not able to come to Kennesaw State with me. But I didn't want to tell my siblings that I was not going to school. So my sister thought that she was taking me to school, dropping me off, and Cicely was going to be there. So got there and I knew this. And she was like, "Are you sure she's going to be here?" I was like, "Yeah, she'll be here later." She's like, "Okay, well, is there anything you need?" So she helped me unpack. I was like, "No, I'm good." And she left. As soon as that door closed, I cried my eyes out because I'm like,
Oh, bless you.
how in the world am I going to do this? I've never done this on my own. And I didn't tell my parents either because I knew well that they would have had her come back and pick me up. So I cried myself to sleep. And there were these tools that I had bought prior to going to college, which was a dressing stick. It's just a stick with a hook on each end. And this thing called a sock helper, which looks like a bra. My husband used to say it looks like something you put on it you put your bra on with. And I was like, no, that is still not it. But those are the two items that I took with me. And that very first morning when I woke up for school, I got up extra early. I prayed and I looked in the closet and said to myself, okay, what's the two easiest thing I could possibly try to get on? And I'll never forget, it was a black skirt and a white blouse. And that was my very first time ever getting dressed by myself. And I was like, okay, I can do this. So from that point on, I said, I just need to figure out how to feed myself at that point. But I'll be good. And I figured that part out. I started taking the bus to the grocery store, getting my groceries and cooking for myself. So yeah.
Wow. I mean, it amazing, when we have to step out of our comfort zone and do something different, most of the time we can figure it out if given the opportunity, right?
Exactly, exactly. And I'm grateful for my mom, especially because I think she already knew that I could do more than what I was doing because she used to tell me all the time, if you don't do more for yourself, you're gonna be living right here with me and Shaq. I ain't gonna be no, and I'm leaving. But I believe she really honestly knew that I could do more than what I was doing for myself. And she always tried to push me to do more. And when I got in college, I was forced to do more. So to answer the question, I did go to college. I got my bachelor's and my master's degree in counseling.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
yeah, and I even went to study abroad in London. So,
Ooh, tell me about
yes,
that.
that was my coming out period. That
Uh-huh.
was my period of telling me, okay, if I can make it in London, I can definitely make it on my own back here in America because I heard that it was one of the most unfriendliest places for somebody being in a wheelchair
Mm-hmm.
because it's an older area and there's steps everywhere. And they were certainly right. And everywhere I went, I had to ask somebody, I was forced to ask somebody to help me. And that's something that I have a hard time doing, asking for help. But it was one of the best decisions I think I could have ever made. It was a great experience. I was over there for a month and a half, and it was during the time of the bombings.
Okay.
I was there during that time. So,
Well, I
um,
just need to ask you. So
sure.
here you are, you're in the wheelchair. You've had a challenging time, I guess, in college with having to do all these things that you hadn't been doing before, right? Taking care of yourself in a different way. What is going through your mind that you say, okay, I've heard that it's really difficult here. Let me go there and try that. Now, what's the mindset on that? I'm just so intrigued.
I think at the time it was more so of a dare
Uh-huh.
for myself to see whether or not I could do it and if I would be okay. Like, I don't think I would do that right now, even though I know I'm capable of doing it. I think I'm afraid now that I've gotten older, like, girl, what were you thinking? And I didn't know anybody.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't know anybody on that trip. It was my first time ever flying or anything. And again, I did not tell my parents until the week before it was time for me to leave for London. But yeah, I wish I had. I think it was more so of a dare. Like,
Hmm.
yeah, if you can make it over there in London, when you come back, you can definitely live alone. You can have your own place and you can make it.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what happened. I went there. When I came back, I got my apartment and everything, and I was living alone.
Nice. It's kind of one of those things where I've heard many times where they say if somebody tries something, if they don't know it's impossible, they can usually do it. It's when they think that it's certainly impossible. I don't know how I'd ever be able to do that, that they hold themselves back. But if they don't know that it's impossible, they just go ahead and just do it. So I
That's
guess that's
true.
what you did, right?
Yes. Yes.
So make sure, and I'm sure you already do, but make sure you appreciate how amazing that is to
I
do
try to
that.
remember those things. I try to.
Yeah.
It's hard because I feel like I'm really hard on myself
Hmm.
when it
Why
comes
do
to
you
a
think
lot of
that
stuff.
is?
Because I feel that, well, and this is strictly in my mind, that people see me first before they get to know me.
Hmm.
So they already have this certain perception about what I can or cannot do. And I feel like I go above and beyond to show them that, yeah, I can do this. This is not going to keep me from doing what it is that I want to do.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
anytime that I have trouble doing what it is that I want to do, I'm beating myself up about it.
Yeah, yeah, I can see that. I can see that. You know, the one of the things that I've been amazed at for over the years, and one of the reasons why I love having people on my podcast and talking about their lives is because the human spirit is like phenomenal and what people can overcome and um not only overcome, but a lot of them can actually look at the things they went through and say, "Oh, I'm so glad that happened because now I'm who I am and I'm stronger and all that stuff," right? Of course, it
Mhm.
takes some special work sometimes to get to
Jesus, it
that place,
does. Yeah.
right? Yeah, yeah. Um, but the thing is, like I had a guest on my podcast that she was actually a phys ed teacher. She was very physical. She did triathlons. She did marathons and all this stuff. And then she was riding her bicycle, training for a triathlon. She was in the Colorado mountains on her bicycle, and a car hit her. And so then she was partially paralyzed. So she was paralyzed from the waist down. And when that happened, she had so many people that took such great care of her at these facilities that she was at that she decided to become a nurse. And everybody told her that you're in a wheelchair, you cannot be a nurse. And she said,
Why not?
yes, I can.
Hmm.
And so she said it wasn't easy because she had to lift people, she had to do everything from that wheelchair, but she did it. And I mean,
Hmm.
and it's like you going to London, didn't you say London?
Yes,
Going
ma'am.
going to London and hell, I would have been scared as crap. And I can get up and physically walk and, ward off people or whatever to a certain extent anyway. So I'm very in awe of that. And so when you're thinking about all these amazing things that you've been able to do in your life, I mean, you've done that, and then you've worked as a counselor, right, for
No, I
years.
have not used my degree as a counselor. I'm an independent adjuster. I mean,
Oh my God.
all that money kind of come in handy as an independent adjuster because you have all these customers, like they've suffered major losses, and I have to be there to listen to them, to get their information or whatever. So
Yeah.
it does come in handy. But no, I have not practiced as a
Oh
counselor.
my gosh. Oh, bless you. But there are a lot of people that get amazing degrees and they work at McDonald's, so you're doing better than that, right? But to me, a lot of the education and stuff that we get for a profession or whatever ends up being for us,
It does.
not
Yes.
for the job. I bet you have so much more ability to empathize with what other people are going through and even for yourself because of all the studies that you did.
I do. I do. I have great empathy for others.
Yeah.
Just see them in a totally different light.
Yeah. Well, I got a question for you. If you were to just close your eyes and take a deep breath and just look back over your life, what is there one thing that you could point to and say, oh, that's one of the times that made me the happiest?
I would say that would be the time I figured out how to hold a pencil and write my name. And yes,
Okay.
I was, I want to say maybe about 4 or 5.
Mm-hmm.
And I was sitting on the floor and I remember figuring out how to hold the pencil to write my name. And my mom, she was, she cooked for us. It's 9 of us. I have 6 sisters and 2 brothers.
Oh my gosh.
Yes. So she was always in the kitchen. And I remember scooting into the kitchen and I was like, Mother, look, I wrote my name. And she turned around. She's like, You did what? I said, I wrote my name. And she was like, Let me see. And I showed it to her. And the look on her face, it was everything for me. So
Aw.
I want to say that was one of the happiest moments that I think I've ever experienced. It was one of my proudest moments.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. Thank you for sharing that with me and
Oh,
for our listeners too, because that's pretty special.
it is. It is. Yes,
Yeah.
I will always remember that.
Yeah. And I think um a lot of us, I'm speaking of me and the other humans out here
Mhm.
that do not deal with being in a wheelchair or do not deal with having a physical um malady, or I hate saying handicap because it's not really a handicap.
Mhm.
Um, but like my niece, I said, she has muscular dystrophy, and
Mhm.
the things that she has to deal with because she's constantly losing muscle. So now she can't get out of the bed by herself. She can't even roll over in the bed by herself. There are so many things that we take for granted every single day, getting to be able to go into any place as long as you can walk upstairs.
Mhm.
But when you're with someone, if you have a handicapped or if you're in a wheelchair or
Mhm.
you're with someone who's in a wheelchair, you have to be so much more mindful about where you park your car. Are there hills or there rocks or there whatever? And so it's a lot to think about all the time.
Mhm.
And so it always amazes me. Like I had this one time I had done some kind of crazy workout at the gym with the personal trainer who really wasn't a very good personal trainer, and I ended up um, spraining my ribs,
Oh, wow.
my abdomen, and
Mhm.
and so. I went to bed and I was in a little bit of pain, but when I woke up, I couldn't sit up, I couldn't roll over, I couldn't do anything because everything was just shutting down. So I had to
Hmm.
call someone. They came and got me, took me to the hospital and all that stuff. But that woke me up tremendously because I thought, oh my God, my niece, Ginger, deals with that
Hmm.
every single day and has
Hmm.
to always ask somebody to do things for her. And that's got to be like, I know for her, it's really hard because she said it begins to feel like for every little thing that you have to ask for, feels like it's a big thing you're asking
It
for.
is
And
exactly. I
so,
understand.
can you talk a little bit about how that shows up for you and how you handle that kind of thing? Because there may be people that are listening that maybe deal with this, or maybe they have never even thought of any of this, and this will let them have more empathy for people who are in this situation.
So the most time that affects me is when it's time for me to go somewhere because I don't drive. So
Mm-hmm.
I depend on others to get me to where I need to go. And before I ask, I promise you, try to come up with every reason as to why I need to ask this person or how I should ask this person. And the thing is, Vickie, the people that I ask, I know they're not going to mind. Like nobody has ever given me like, well, no, nobody has ever done that. It's all in my mind.
Mm-hmm.
Like I feel like I'm being a burden to you
Yeah.
by asking you to do this.
Yeah.
And someone taught me, or told me, and I'm still learning it. I haven't quite learned it all the way, but they say you have to remember by you asking someone to do something, that could be the thing for that they need for like to the thing that they want, like they want to help. And by you not asking, you're depriving them of the thing that they need. So
Yeah.
I was like, okay. So
Yeah.
I'm still trying to learn that, but yeah, I still do struggle with that part of it.
Yeah, I know my niece does. And heck, I do on occasion because it's like I want to be, retain my independence and I want to be able to do things for myself. And then if something happens where suddenly I can't do something, it's like so overwhelming and kind of to even ask people to do things that you normally do yourself.
Mhm.
I know that for myself. And so it's just it's strange how we and I would say you're probably like this. You would do anything for anybody, right?
Exactly. Yes, ma'am. I'm that person.
Yep, yep. And so it just kind of you think, well, why have I will do anything for anybody, and I would never make anybody feel bad for asking. Why do I feel like they don't want me to ask,
Yeah,
Yeah,
I definitely have that issue. Definitely.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, so let's go back just a little bit. So when you were in high school, did you partake in a lot of the stuff around school? Were you involved in different activities that the schools provide, like whether it's the student council? Those are just all the things I can think of right now.
Yes, so in high school, I did get involved in, it was called, yeah, Student Government Association, SGA.
How did
I
I know?
did get involved with that for a while, and I was in chorus.
Okay.
Um,
So can you
I,
sing good?
no, I have this little mousy voice. I'm a great soprano. I can background, but don't put a microphone in front of my face.
Well, I got a secret. I've been part of the church choir and stuff several times, and I say I sound really good in a crowd.
Exactly. Me too. Yes,
Yeah,
I can
yeah,
definitely bring out everybody else.
that's right. That's right.
Yes, so I was involved in that in high school. I was pretty popular in high school because I was one of the few that was in a wheelchair, and that was not on the quote unquote special education wing. You know how they
Mm,
had that wing for other kids? I was that one person I was not. So people knew me, and my mom had to literally fight to keep me out of special education because when I
mm-hmm.
was born, they saw me and they just automatically assumed something was wrong with me mentally. So
Um,
when it was time for me to go to school, she had to fight for them to. put me in a regular class like everybody else. And I didn't make it any better because I wouldn't talk. And
Oh,
I
okay.
remember on certain occasions, when it was time for me to go to the doctor, I stayed from Waynesboro, Georgia, and we had to go to Augusta for my
Mm-hmm.
appointment. And she would literally talk to me from the time we got in the car all the way to Augusta. Like, you need to talk to these doctors so they will know nothing is wrong with you. But right now they think something is wrong with you. You need to open your mouth. And she would fuss at me all the way to Augusta. And I'm like, yes, ma'am. Okay, okay. Get at the doctor's office and was shut completely down.
Why do you
We
think
had the
that
whole
is?
conversation back to home. Like, I told you. Yeah, I'm like, I'm sorry, Mom.
So why do you think you didn't want to talk to them?
I don't know if it was fear or I don't know why. I don't know why I didn't want to talk to them. That's a good question.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah, and when she found out that I could write, that was her get to them. Like, she had me back at the hospital showing the doctors that I could actually write.
All right.
So,
Well, see, if all that was happening today, she'd have a cell phone out taking pictures of you talking and everything, right? Here's some evidence.
exactly, exactly. Yes,
Yeah.
yes, he
Yeah.
did.
Yeah. So you said that you've never had children though, but
No.
your husband passed away, right?
Yes,
What did he
my
pass away
husband passed
from?
away. He had a heart condition from birth,
Okay.
and it ended up getting worse as he got older. And he had this device called an LVAD. I don't know if you've ever heard of this, left
Mm-mm.
ventricular
Mm-mm.
assistive device. Well, it operates just like an artificial heart, but
Okay.
it's a pump.
Oh, now
And
my
it's
uncle had a heart pump. I just thought it was called a heart pump.
okay. And was he attached? Like, he had to consistently be attached to either batteries or the wall.
Yeah, the batteries. He always had this thing with them that with the batteries. And
Yes,
so if he ever had the little beeping noise or something, it was like, wait, okay, we got to
yes,
make sure
that's
my
it.
batteries.
Yes,
Yeah.
ma'am.
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am. That's what he had until they were able to find him heart. And he got the heart, and 5 days later, he passed. And this is during COVID. So I'm thinking I no one's told me, but I'm thinking that's probably what ended up taking him out because the doctors told me that everything was good.
Yeah.
Like, so, yeah, that's what ended up
Wow.
happening. Yes, but yeah,
Well, that had to be very hard for you to
it was.
deal with because,
Yeah,
the people that I've talked to that have lost someone during COVID, it was like they didn't get to see them. They didn't get to do the closure things that you would normally do.
exactly. But I think honestly, COVID happened at a good time for me
Mm-hmm.
after that happened because I don't think I wanted to be bothered with anyone. So being at the house and closed in, I
Mm-hmm.
think that was good for me.
Yeah. Yeah.
I felt like I was better able to process. I think.
Yeah.
I did have a lot of therapy. I'm not gonna lie, but I don't think I wanted to be bothered with anybody else
Yeah.
at the time. So yeah.
Yeah. We all deal with grief in our own way.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
like right now, after my mom passed in 22, it's kind of opposite. I kind of want to be with people.
Okay. I wonder what that is. What
I
do you
don't
think that
know.
is? Well, it's different losing a spouse than it is losing a parent,
That's true.
you
That's
know?
hmm
Um, so I don't know. But there's several little journal things I think you should be journaling on at some point to kind of dive
I
through and
think
see
that.
what there's underneath, right?
Exactly,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
Yes. So, but yeah, and I did raise my nephews. They were, tell me, they were 3 when I got them. They're
You
twin
said
boys.
them, so is it how many were there?
Twin boys.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So,
So
and
how
I feel
did you
like
get them? What happened?
so when I came out from London,
Mm-hmm.
they were waiting for me. They were my brother had 9 kids, and so it was a lot going on. So I was asked to take on them for a while and just to help out, and I did. And I think that was definitely a good experience for me because I've always wanted kids. I
Mm-hmm.
always said I wanted to have twins so I can get it over and out of the way. That was my take on it. So I had them until middle school, and then they
Okay.
went back home.
Oh,
I
that had
got
to
the
be hard
experience.
too.
Actually, I think it made me a better person, and it made me focus on other people, somebody else other than myself. I
Mm-hmm.
wasn't down on me. Like I had to look out for them. They were dependent on me to have their needs met.
Right.
So,
I mean, it had to have been really difficult when they went back.
oh yeah, that
Yeah.
was very
Yeah.
difficult. That was very difficult.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the little boys that I was homeschooling as well, when they left last year, I feel like I'm dealing with that still to this day. Like that was really, really difficult for me because it was like my second set of kids.
Yeah. And when what happens to a lot of us is that there's something happens and that becomes a trigger, even though we don't know it. And then later
Mhm,
something happens that has just a little tinge of the same feel, and it
mhm,
pops you right back into that space
mhm.
of grief or whatever it was that you were dealing with. So there's so many triggers that can throw us right back into that place. And so that's where all that journaling comes in to kind of help figure
It,
out what's the trigger, and then
mhm,
how can I
mhm.
overcome that trigger. It's a lot sometimes.
It
And
is.
as a hypnotist, that's some of the things that I help some people with.
Mhm.
So it's amazing how we don't even realize it, but little things or sounds and smells and everything will put us right back into this place that we would
Mhm.
rather not be, you know.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. So, how did you get into this crafting stuff? Have you always been a crafter?
So, after I got married, so I always used to draw whatever when I was younger, and it's so funny. You mentioned that one of my friends from when I was younger, we met up about a couple of months ago, and I was telling her I was making the paper presses. She said, "You know what's so funny?" She said, "You're still doing that." I remember so clearly. We're sitting in church, and you're folding up paper, making paper purses. I was like, "What?" Making all that noise. I said I had no idea that I did that. I completely forgot about that. But she reminded
Wow.
me of it. And when I was married to my husband, I kind of started getting back into crafts and seeing what I could and could not do. And he bought me all these Cricut machines and the what you call the not the serger machine, the sewing machine. He bought me a sewing machine, but the one
Embroidery?
yes, the embroidery machine. He bought me one of those. So I started tinkering around with those, and yeah, I'm in another world when I'm with my crafts.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, I
beautiful. I
absolutely love
really,
it.
I should introduce you to my niece, the one with muscular dystrophy. She's a crafter, but she's lost a lot of her strength and her abilities, in her arms, and also she used to do embroidery. She made purses and embroidery those. She used to embroidery her daughter's cheerleading squad. She'd embroider for them. She used to do all of that stuff. And now one of the things that she does is she paints. So she paints rocks, ceramic tiles, little canvases, but she's painting these amazing things. And so she loves crafting too. So I need to get you two connected together.
Yes, most certainly.
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah, yeah. And she's local to me, so you're not too far from me. So we should all get together for lunch or something at some
we
point.
definitely should. I'm
Yeah,
all for that.
yeah, that would be great. It really would.
Yes,
So
ma'am.
I know you said that you make these purses, and what did you call them? It's
So I do the memorial purses.
yes, memorial
Hmm.
purse.
So, and I figured that out. Well, tried it with my mom's obituary because
Hmm.
I don't like keeping those things around, and I find some kind of way to damage it so it can end up going in the trash can. But I didn't want to throw hers in the trash, and I was just like, let me see if I can make a purse out of it. And I ended up making a purse out of it, and it's beautiful.
So,
So
do you by any chance have one that we could see?
I do have I think her memorial purse
So,
is in
those that
the
are listening and not watching, oh, you're gonna be missing out. I see your Cricut machine over there.
So this is one of the purses I created.
Oh, how gorgeous.
You.
Oh, what's the inside look like?
It's just a plain inside interior.
Okay. So do you sell these at craft fairs or where do you sell them?
At craft fairs, so I've attended two or three so far. But it's
Mm-hmm.
the
Oh
um,
yeah. Very cool.
Yeah, so this is what I've been into lately.
Yeah.
But the memorial purse looks a lot like this, but of course it has her face and everything on it. And the obituary, the reading is on the back, and on the side panels are like the photos that's on the obituary.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody told me, she's like, maybe was somebody suggested that from when I do others, try to get like stands or whatever, that their favorite stands, and put it on the inside for the
Oh,
family.
that's a cool idea. Yeah.
So, yeah,
Yeah.
so that's what I'm
Yeah.
looking into doing.
See, for me, I would like to have the one with a whole bunch of pictures and stuff, but I don't know that I would want the obituary on there.
Really,
Yeah.
I can see that too. I can see why. Yeah,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
mhm,
Yeah. So that's interesting. Hmm.
mhm.
Yeah, so there's another lady that I want to introduce you to if you haven't met her already, and help me remember, and I'll tell you about it when we finish today.
Okay,
But she's got a group that I think you'd be really, really interested in.
okay.
And so you do your purses, and so was there another craft that you do with the
So
that you,
I make cards, which I love. I think that's one of my favorite things to do, honestly, is make cards.
like
And
greeting cards, right?
I'm sorry.
Like greeting cards?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
And I also do shoes, paint shoes. So I've been
Okay.
into, yeah, doing that.
What do you
So
do with the shoes? Do you paint
for
designs
instance,
on it? You
just I put designs on it. So for instance, my sister, when she had the homeschooling business, she taught other kids, parents, kids that
hmm
didn't want to homeschool their kids but wanted them in a homeschool environment. I painted her pair of shoes. One of them was a pencil and the other was a piece of paper.
Oh
So
my gosh.
yeah,
Oh man, I want to see those.
okay, I would definitely send pictures. I've done quite a bit of shoes. Someone I did, the little girl I did Princess and the Frog theme on it. And I put my nephew face on his shoes. He wanted his face on his shoes, so I put drew his face on his shoes or whatever. So yeah, I love doing all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, that's very interesting. So, just out of curiosity, so you start with a regular pair of shoes that they wear already, and then you
Mhm.
have to do something to the surface to make it pliable for whatever paints and all that you're using, right?
That's correct. Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yeah, there's a certain
I'm
type
getting
of
a
paint that
visual
you
in my
have to
mind.
use. Yeah, a certain type of paint you have to use to make sure it doesn't crack or anything, and it keeps the material soft. So
Yeah.
yeah,
So what kind of paint do you use then?
the brand that I use is called Angela's,
Mm-hmm.
and they
So
have
I'm
this.
assuming it's not an acrylic though, or is it?
It is an acrylic, but they have this stuff called Too Soft that
Mm-hmm.
keeps the acrylic paints soft, like
Okay.
pliable
So
and keep
when it's on the shoe, it's bendable, just not washable.
correct,
Okay.
correct. Mhm.
Yeah. Very
Yes, and then
cool.
you have to put the sealant on it as well to keep it, long
Yeah.
lasting.
Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah.
Very interesting. I'm loving this. I can't wait to have you share some of the pictures and stuff. So do you have a
Um,
website or something where you have some of this at?
I just started my Facebook page
Okay.
that I have some of the stuff on there, and I'm working on the website now, and I'm hoping to have it up and running no later than the end of October. I feel like that's one of the most excruciating things to do to create a website. Like I feel like I've been working on it forever,
That's
and
when you get somebody else to do it.
I'm trying to save money.
I know, I know. Of course,
Oh,
I will say I had somebody remind me one time and said, well, if you were to be getting paid by the hour, how much do you think that thing's costing you? And it's like, okay, well, let me back up. I can use my time better somewhere else and pay somebody to do that.
mm-hmm.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. But yeah, for some reason or another, I want to do it. And I've also been working on my book as well. And I'm
Yeah.
hoping to have that up and published by the end of December.
Are you going to self-publish?
Yes. Hmm.
Okay. Well, you'll have
Yes.
to keep us posted
I
on
will.
and when it's out and then the links for it and everything. Because the just like when you were on the stand up and stand out party, and
Yes.
Oswald shared about his book. He sold a bunch of the books
Yes,
to
good.
us, and then to people that watched it later. And so
Mhm.
he sold some books.
Good for
So
him.
yeah, so you'll be able to you've got a network of people now that
Mhm.
will be able to support you in that. So I look forward to hearing when it's there.
Thank you. Thank you. I'll definitely keep you updated.
Yeah, definitely beautiful. Well,
Yeah.
that's about time for us right now. So this has been such a pleasure to meet you on a different level than just seeing you in that party that we were at. And so I want to thank you so much for being here. And
You're welcome.
before
Thank
we
you.
go, I want to ask you if there's something that you wanted to share before we got on here that maybe I haven't asked a question about or anything. Is there anything that you would like to share? Maybe a story about your life or some words of wisdom to someone, whatever it may be.
If I could share or say anything, it would be to just give people a chance. Don't just see them and come up with this whole story about who that person is before you get to know who they are and before
Yeah.
you pass up pretty much probably one of the best things that could have ever happened to you. So,
Yeah.
full of chance.
Yeah, I love that advice. I love that. I do. And just really quick before we go, I will say that one of the things that bothers my niece so much is that if there's a bunch of us with her and people
Mhm.
walk up, they don't talk to her. They talk to all of us. Like she doesn't have the intelligence to speak up for herself or
Mhm.
anything.
Mhm.
So we'll usually say, well, just ask her, you know?
Exactly. Hmm.
So it's interesting how people do, but no, that's just how it is. People that don't deal with that don't even realize that they're doing anything that's maybe not as respectful.
Exactly. I don't
So
take it too hard.
that's right. So anybody that's listening or watching that has not been around someone that maybe is in a wheelchair or something, just be aware now when you go out, leave some extra space by your car. Make sure you're not parking in front of the little van place where the ramp
Mhm.
comes down, doing all of those amazing things. But also be respectful of someone who might be in the chair and just assume that they're ultra intelligent and they just have a little physical thing that keeps them from walking around just like us. So I just want to make sure I tell everybody that, right?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. All right. So I love to leave everybody with one of my favorite quotes. It is the best way to predict the future is create it. And that always seems so appropriate to just about every single person that I have here as a guest, and ultra appropriate for you because you have created your own future in such an amazing way. And I'm still in awe about your London trip, I will say. So I can't wait to dive in some point with a lot more of the story because it sounds like it would be very interesting to learn a little bit more about. Yeah,
It was.
maybe you
It
can at some
was.
point be a guest again and you can
Oh,
share a
sure.
little bit more.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. So, thank you everybody for being here and watching, listening, and to make sure that you leave a comment if you can. And remember to like, subscribe, and share. And let's get Althea's voice out here even bigger than it is right here.
Thank
So thank
you.
you again. Mwah.
Thank you. Bye bye.